Yes.
Rome.
The Hole. Have you ever watched it? It was released in 2001. I think, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it's Keira Knightley's debut role.
Yes, I have. I think before we started recording, I might have said I haven't, but I have. I have seen that film. Let me just check here. Yes, I have.
It's got Thora Birch in, and they basically, this group of kids go down into a hole to party and take drugs and have sex.
Yeah.
And then they get stuck.
Yeah.
But do they have, like, what's really going on? And it's basically just, I mean, I love this movie so much, but I think I love it because of Thora Birch.
Yeah.
Like I have a great love for that girl, that woman. She was like amazing in I want to say Hocus Pocus, and then I loved her in Ghost World. Me and my best friend were like obsessed with Ghost World when we were first at uni, and we were like, I was the Thora Birch version and she was the Scarlett Johansson, and we were like this that was us. And so then there was this movie as well where I was like, oh my god, it's Thora Birch, I'm obsessed with her. I haven't even mentioned she's in American Beauty as well, but whatever. But the Hole is amazing, and she's such a psycho in it, like a genuine psychological defined.
I mean, I suppose that there are light spoilers there, in so much as we don't necessarily know that all the way through, do we? Watching it,
I don't think it takes anything away. I literally do. I've watched it so many times, knowing what she is, and I still enjoy knowing how far she's willing to go for something that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, it matters to her
because she's a teenager.
Do you think? I was like, I don't think most teenagers have that level of crazy.
Well,
I think she's like next level crazy.
I
think there's more than teenage angst going on there.
It's not just teenage angst. It's teenage, the belief that this is it. This is the thing. This is what I need to. It's never going to get better than this. I need to go for this now.
That whole thing as well, like the bit where he spoilers, whatever. Like, but it's released in 2001. We have like legitimately grounds to not worry about people not having seen this now.
Yeah.
But like when he dies at the end, she's like, we were perfect in that moment, and we would never be that again. And I was just like,
but that's my point. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
Crazy. No, you are so crazy, but I loved it.
But that's exactly it. There's this idea that somehow, and it's also something actually. Again, this is if we go back to Cabin in the Woods and broader notions of the way, especially Americana, teenage Americana is sold to us. This idea that actually spring break, high school, all this stuff is the pinnacle of your life, unless you go on.
And everything else from that's downhill.
Exactly, exactly. And in this instance,
this is going to accomplish anything of meaning after 18.
Precisely. So it's British teens in a private school in Britain, which I think gives it its own interesting little texture, actually.
Yeah.
And they find themselves in a bomb shelter.
And Thora Birch's British accent's really good.
Yeah.
It's genuinely good.
But I think it's that intensity that comes out of this notion of things like seeking the perfect love, and it's also actually it's very similar to what lots of people get wrapped up in when it comes to wedding days, isn't it? This idea of this is my day. This is my perfect day. And
this is my day.
Exactly.
You will do everything I want, even if it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
For one day.
So really, is the whole about a bridezilla? Is that?
You could compare the crazy levels on those two. I don't know. I just really love as well.
Or a groomzilla.
Yeah. I really like as well the different narrative, the way she tells the story to manipulate the police officer.
Yeah.
That to me is just so beautifully done, and presents herself as this victim of this terrible thing, and that as she's telling you this story, she's revealing bits of herself, and like and I like the fact it like Keira Knightley's demise in that is truly horrific.
Yes.
And like, and you wouldn't wish that on your friend, but yet she was willing to have that happen
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to her friend.
Yeah. I think
Um,
I agree. I agree, and I do remember that film coming out, and again, I
but
think
I
it.
go back to that so regularly, it's embarrassing. Like,
No, but
it,
is this also what I suppose what we were talking about earlier, whereby actually what they present you with is this little. It's a moment in time. It is something that you are connecting with, and that you seek. Well, you were saying that you seek out a certain feeling, but also in that
yeah,
sense, you keep on seeking out a certain scenario as well by going back
yeah.
into that space with them. But also, this was another 2001 film. So this was roughly when I must have watched this again when I was working in Blockbuster. Must have picked it up in my as one of my free to watch films. But what's interesting though is that, and this is what's also interesting whenever I go to watch something on streaming, my lovely wife, we shall call her Mrs. Soup. Mrs.
Mm-hmm.
Soup is, she often says, "Can we watch something? Let's watch something, that's light and fun." So I'll go, "Let's watch this," thinking it's light and fun, but actually it's a horror film. And so I don't
I
think
think you need to stick to Studio Ghibli and Disney.
exactly. Yeah, no, less so Disney, but no, actually, no. Then again, there's some really good,
There are some good
Moana and
Disney.
yeah. Tangled. Anyway, the point is though is that I don't think I'm desensitized to it, but I think what I love and what I enjoy. For example, I find, for example, zombie apocalypse films and TV series interesting because they're actually it's not about the monster, it's about the people's reaction to the monster.
Yes, I think I went through an absolute obsession with zombie movies,
Hmm.
and I think that's something that we should talk about in a later episode,
Yeah.
because I think it's such a vast topic. But I went through that same. I mean, I'm not in that phase right now, but I
No.
went through a total obsession with zombie movies, and
But
yeah,
it's
it
because
was all about the people's reaction and exploring how they dealt with the trauma, and that was the interest. And
yeah.
also I loved it as well when they had um you know when they were making like allegorical comments about society
Mm-hmm.
and the nature of crowds
Yeah.
and the dumbness of like mass crowd people, that kind of stuff's really interesting to me.
Now I should say Resident Evil Apocalypse does not fall into that category for me.
No.
But your George A. Romero films,
Yes.
Walking Dead to a certain extent, even Z Nation, they're actually what it is it's a lens through which to focus on human character and the way people
Yeah.
respond to each other, kindness, brutality, selfishness, love, altruism, all this stuff comes out of that, and I think that's why sometimes when I'm asked, let's watch something light and fun, I find myself not. I won't. Don't get me wrong. I don't go. Let's watch Alien. Yeah, it'll be something which just has a slight dark edge to it, and she'll be like, "Really? Is this? Do you find this relaxing?" And actually, oddly
Well,
enough, I
yeah,
do.
i
Oddly,
i relax to gore, violence, and
uh,
horror.
but
Like,
you don't like the Hostel films though.
no, I don't like torture horror. Although I did watch Martyrs and I did like that. I
Hmm.
don't know why that didn't really. Maybe it was because I knew what was going to happen. Maybe, but I didn't. Do you know the ending of that?
No. No.
Okay. Do you want me to tell you the ending of that? Okay. Spoiler alert. So at the end of it, she has all her skin removed. She's like flayed.
Oh. Oh, blimey.
Yeah. So I knew that that was the ending, and it is still disturbing, but and she is basically tortured into enlightenment, which is just a kind of weird concept in and of
Hmm.
itself.
Hmm.
But I didn't find that as horrendous because you weren't because like I just find the hostel and like the driller killer and all this, you like focus on this moment of just pain of the person, whereas I'm like I'm not I like horror. Like I like kind of style. I like Tarantino gore,
Hmm. Hmm.
and violence, where there's a kind of stylized moment to it. And I kind of like it when that's not the focus. That's just part of the storytelling. So I don't really like the torture stuff.
Yeah, so the gore is in that sense it's part of it's having a dramatic effect as opposed to having a shocking effect. 'Cause-
Yeah.
and this is where films like, for example, Paranormal Activity. I went to see that in the cinema when it was released. I was living in York at the time, and I came away from it very annoyed actually because I felt as though the film had physiologically manipulated me into jumping by using
Okay. Yeah.
loud noises, bangs, and scares. And it's almost like sometimes a torture porn film, so called, they are there because they know that you are watching through the lens. You see what I mean? They're there to shock you,
Yeah.
the audience. So the violence isn't necessarily being enacted upon characters for character reasons. It's being well, it's exploitation cinema. It's there because
Mm.
it's wanting, and so I felt as though the first Paranormal Activity was just there just to go bang, and you go whoa, and of course you go whoa because someone's just gone bang in the dark room. Um, yeah, there was some aspects of the film I think that were quite effective. The sped up footage of the possessed lady sort of watching her husband in bed. That was kind of cool.
Yes.
My
Well,
realm is the present.
I
I
know.
know.
She,
More than anything else in her life, she wants to see Paris.